Welcome back. I'm so glad you're here. The sun is up high in the sky this morning. It's coming up a little earlier and earlier. I'm here pretty early. It's only 7:15 or so. Getting the shop open, get ready to fire up this video and fire up a day in the shop. That's what we do on this channel. If you're new, I'm Jimmy. The channel's Making It Work. Probably says that below the video at the bottom. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on. I know that this Isuzu, they were telling me a week and a half ago, she wants it back, fix it no matter what, but I haven't been able to work on it. We'll see if we can get that fuel pump in, get this thing running. Hopefully today we'll be able to do that. I know we got a few cars that are coming back for estimates we did last week too. There'll be plenty to do. We'll try to learn something and we'll definitely have some fun. Stay tuned. Some of you guys might not watch my project truck videos on Sundays, but this is where we're at now. We're doing in front of this A-pillar. I welded in this piece. It looked kind of like this here. So I did that patch. This is solid in between. I'm going to do the top and do this. And then we're going to be putting the roof back on this thing. For those of you who haven't been watching, now you're up to speed. I do have categories on my main channel page. I have categories for tools, categories for repairs, categories for personal opinion videos that I do once in a while, and I have project truck videos. Check them out right at the main page. '11 Buick Enclave. 129,515 miles. Check engine lights on. I can feel the motor mounts are bad. Steering feels a little sloppy. A couple of things going on. They did an oil change on it, sold some maintenance. So I think Katie's working on the extended warranty company for the motor mount and some front end work. I definitely feel that motor mount. To me, that's the #1 most important thing. But we're gonna do a tune-up, transmission service, and I think a brake flush or something on. Oh look, there it is. Induction service, transmission service, a tune-up, and a can of Lucas. The check engine lights on. But we didn't ask about that. Let's give it a love rating. Stop procrastinating, and we'll go with a 3. And we'll pop this hood and get to work. I'll figure that out. Hood shocks are bad too. Can't just be ripping the intake off to get to the spark plugs and let dirt in the engine. Well, I lifted the air snorkel out of there, and the PCV is putting a lot of oil in the breather apparently, so that's no good. I set it down on a rag so it would drip it out of there. Gotta look into that and see what causes that. Probably a valve cover problem. Could be just a PCV valve, and it could also just be a lot of blow-by from the engine. But spark plugs, focus. Get a peek at this air filter. I recommend one of those too. Alright, I want to see it. I'll show you up close. That's bad. Pull some stuff out of my way here, make it easier to get this intake manifold off. Purge valve. Some wiring harnesses got to get pulled out of the way. That should be good. Let's get the old bungee on there. The old bungee. Where else am I going to put it to? I got to have it connected on 2 ends. Pretty useless if you only put them in one spot. That'll work. I think we're doing coils and plugs. Maybe because of the check engine light. I don't know. I'm going to need a flexi. I unplugged this from the back there because I didn't want to risk breaking and pulling out of the manifold, but I think that's it. Ooh, it's still hot. Just a little something to help with dust and dirt while I clean this area. I'm going to go ahead and see if our coils and plugs is here. 6 napcumes. That's what my oldest son called them when he was a little baby boy. Called them napcumes. So they're napcumes. That's just the way it is. Got that harness under tension on my bungee cord. Might have to loosen it to put that back on. Come on, little connectors. Let's do it. 10mm. Should have all them curls out of there. Yeah. Uh-oh. The little booty's messed up. Someone's been in here. Thought this thing had original plugs in it. Oh. Some coils are black boots, some are red or purple boots. That's kind of... Someone's been in here. Black boot on that one. Black boot on that one. Oh, and oil. Out of the way, power steering. Or is that AC? That's power steering, yep. Oh, purple. So there's 3 purples and 3 black coils. I wonder if they're positive or negative or something weird, or if someone just changed 3 of the coils. A little oil in each cylinder, but just a tiny bit, not much. That comes in from the tube down at the base in the cylinder head, not the valve cover, because the tube is dry at the top. There's only oil in the very bottom. And it's a minute amount, so a little extra lubrication for the cylinders. Oh, that's nice. Maybe that was a little more oil than I thought, huh? It doesn't even come up to the hex on the plug, which usually means there's not much in there. I'm gonna have to blow it out of the cylinder so we don't hurt nothing yet. Nothing yet? Dang it. Alright, let's change our strategy. Yeah, see, there's not much oil in them at all. Okay, it just looks a little worse than it was. I think it pushed up on the spark plug socket. It made me go, uh-oh. And there was 1 with oil in the back. Nope, 2 with oil in the back. Oh, that one had a pretty good amount of oil. Alright, we got some cleanup to do. That'll be a little better. AC Delcos with some wear and tear on them, so maybe they are original. Coming out quite a bit cleaner now. Excuse me. That's better. We're going to also drain the trans, do a drain and fill, because I want to put this in, which I find kind of frightening, but it's not up to me. So it's all pre-sold. I'm not sure if there's symptoms or if we're just doing it for preventative maintenance, which I would put this stuff in unless I already had transmission problems. I asked them about it. They're like, customer wants it. I'm gonna pull this plug out here, 7/16, 11mm if you prefer. That's burned. So it doesn't smell absolutely fried, but smells like there's some slipping going on. So maybe we're doing this just to prolong it, see if we can get another 5,000–10,000 miles out of it, I guess. I'm gonna drain it with the engine off, put that plug in, then fill it with the engine running. If you haven't seen transmission services before, there's a drain plug that's lower and there's a drain plug that's a little higher in this design. And the one that's a little higher you remove while it's running, and fluid should just trickle out. If nothing drips out, add fluid till it does. And with the engine running, put the plug back in and tighten it up before you shut the engine off. Because when the pump's running, it pulls the fluid level down, and when you shut it off and the pump stops, the fluid level will go up. So you definitely want the fill plug back in before you shut it off. That's what we'll be doing next. We're waiting on the plugs and coils and stuff, and apparently we're doing the motor mounts now. They approved those too. Alright. Motor mounts are here, but that's about it. Take a look at those. Comes in a kit. 4 mounts. Man, I can't even see 4 mounts in there. I see this mount. I guess the other ones are from up top. From down here, I don't see much of anything. It's all-wheel drive. That must be, that's probably going to be a little tragic. We'll see. I think it's like 3 hours for all 4 mounts. But she said there's one mount that's very difficult and the insurance company won't pay for, so don't worry about it if it's hard to do. I don't know what the other mounts are. It's pretty funny. I have to let it down and see what the other mounts are. This is probably the one that's broken. I can feel the engine lift and release, and this mount right up by the radiators, I think, is the one that controls that. There's a dog bone mount probably up top too, if the kit's accurate. We'll take a look once we're finished with this training service deal. Alright, there's a transverse mount, and that is broken too. So those two mounts are the critical ones. You guys spot the other mount? Let me know. There's got to be one over here. Oh, I bet you it's under the splash shield on the side there. I think those are the three we're going to do. There is a top fill, and there is a dipstick. So you don't have to remove out the fill plug. There's a fill plug right next to the drain plug. Keep it down over there. Keep it down over there. We're going to put the training honey in. Look at that stuff. That's how it works. It's a viscosity enhancer. Let that drip a while. It'll take a minute or 10. Alright, we changed out the gasket. Gasket just arrived. Oh, let's see if this is still going. Oh yeah, still going. 3 more quarts for a total of 4 to start. I'm going to start playing with these mounts while waiting on plugs and coils. I don't know what the holdup is, but I think she's looking to get them from someone else now. The one transverse mount is definitely blown out. I got to take the fuse panel and everything out and move all the wiring back. So I'm going to wait on that one until I get the manifold back. I think if I remove that oil filter, I can get to the top nut on the front mount. And then the other mount's supposed to be back there. I'll have to take the wheel and the wheel liner out to see it. And then I'll be able to raise the engine up with a pole jack and get the mounts out, allegedly. So let's try that. GoPro decided it didn't want to record anymore. Let's see if we get this right. Let that filter drip. And I got my special drain pan under here. It'll make a mess. And that bolt should come out with an impact socket and extension. That's gonna go back on just like it's still new. Because it is. Don't tip over on my box either, you turkey. I like living on the edge. I'm a risk taker. You guys know. It looks like a 19. Hard to see from here. Gonna need a long extension on a 19. It should come right out of there. This one's really big. Let's see if it's big enough. Oh, you know what I'm talking about. That ought to be perfect. The question is, will a mid-torque do it with that long extension? Probably not that tight, that nut. I'm guessing 50 foot-pounds, 60 foot-pounds max. And here we go. Let's see. Told you it wouldn't be a problem. You take the wheel off of there, this mount's staring you in the face. What's the big deal, man? What is the big deal, Jimmy? Ugh. She's tight, though, I'll tell you that much. Let's go this way. Ugh. It says in the instructions to remove and discard and putting in nuts, but you guys know that's not going to happen. That's nonsense. Plugs and coils got here. So now I'm just going to take this nut off and go back to putting that all back together. I don't like having that open for some reason. You guys like that? And got an intake off of an engine. You're like, I don't really want to do too much work around there until I'm done with that. She initially ordered the coils. He's hiding. Originally they were coming from someone else. We were closing on 3 hours. Ordered them from AutoZone, 15 minutes. So, comes with dielectric grease. It's a whole coil kit, very nice. Instead of just using 6 little tiny boxes, you just got 6 bags. I don't know what brand these are, but they look pretty good. It says D for Duralast on them. They're probably made by Dorman, I don't know. We'll see how they go. Hear that little click, you know you're connected. Gotta tighten these bolts. I just use a rag with some brake clean, wipe down the flanges on the manifold. Don't put a Scotch lock pad on them or anything like that and put your own sanding marks in there to just make them leak. So, FYI. If you've seen my other videos, you might have heard that before, but it's worth repeating. Scotch lock pads should be illegal. Good for like body work. Or like a 1950s cast iron block maybe. Those big tapered cones on the gasket, that's for helping to slide the manifold plenum in place. So you gotta really be gentle with it, kind of feel it down on there and then start the bolts by hand, of course. I can look up the torque specs too, but we'll snug them for now. £18 foot, or as it says in the paper, blabs foot. Got a good extension for the last one. Just so I feel a little better about it, go around the second time. I gotta say, some people, a lot of people like to rag on these vehicles, and honestly, not my first preference either, but they're easy to work on. I mean, that plenum is ridiculous. It's literally like 8 minutes to get it on and off there. Tuck a couple wire harnesses back where they go. Put the vacuum pump back up. Purge valve. Phone's ringing. Your phone, it's ringing. This goes down a little slot. Let me go get the phone. Clips back on the clips. Some of these are broken. I didn't even break them. So I'm gonna do connector. Let's see if my air filter's here yet. I can start on a transverse mount too. Maybe I'll unbolt that so it's easier to lift the front of this motor and do those other two mounts. Let's check on the air filter real quick and then we'll start on this mount. Uh-oh, more stuff on it. My gracious goodness, that was entertaining. There's 5 clips and you can pull it off the aluminum bracket, but I think I might have to disassemble the whole fuse panel. I was hoping just to lift it up and set it over. But they got 2 wiring harnesses going in from over here. I need to disassemble it and pull those connectors off. It should just be 8mm or 7mm in here or something, 10. So there's 2 cables off to the side. I know one thing, we'll find out more if we start taking stuff apart. Oh, now that stuff happens. Oh, look at that thing. Look at that. It's like they knew you were going to have to take this apart. See, there's a little leg here. So this has to come up if it's going to go anywhere. We'll do that. How about that? You know. Some tins hold this bracket in, and I'll be able to lift it out. A couple little push clipper doodles. Hey, don't make me get the extension, will you? Oh, something happened. Should be getting close. Oh, look at that. That's not really so bad. As much as I had feared. Sitting here bragging on how GM engineering was pretty decent to work on. And I was like, uh-oh, I shouldn't have said nothing. I don't really want to touch some battery cables. This goes to the alternator. I think this one's live. I didn't disconnect the battery. Don't do what I do, kids. There you go. You do what I do if you're careful, but alright, 2 15s. And that mounts out of there, I think. So let's grab a 15. I'm going to take that out and then do the lower ones before I put the new one back in. Oh, man. So taking the fuse box out is 98% of the work, I guess. Uh-oh, I shouldn't have bragged. See what happens. Don't ever brag before it's time to brag. You know what? I think the shoulder of the mount catches on this. It's pretty funny. What, you gotta bend it open? Gee, man. Dumb engineers. Oh, never mind. Dumb mechanic. think I got it. Oh, hang on. Oh, told you it was dumb mechanic, not dumb engineers. The work's happening over here, man. Pay attention. Come on now. Stay with me. Don't be going subscribing to other channels. I didn't think that was going to be that easy. Same thing with this one. Out in the scrap pile you go. Save the rubber booty just in case. I didn't look to see if it comes with it. There's a little pin on the frame. You got to turn the mount. Just don't go drop it in the pin. Insulator to protect the oil pan. These pole jack legs will put a hole in an oil pan in a heartbeat, so we don't want to have that happen. Help you? Can I help you? The guy's stopping me from work and want me to work on his car right away. I'm like, no, I'm finishing this car for this customer. My car has a problem right now. Oh, okay. I guess people just don't understand that, you know, this customer has also got a problem with their car right now. So you don't come first. You have to, everything's done in order. You have to have a system, right? That's the fairest way to do it. You do that. There you go. That is that. Uh-oh. Which one goes where? We'll find out pretty quick. Put them both in place. When they touch the threads on the other side, they should be about the same height. That looks good. If I switch them, this one will barely reach and this one will be sticking up further, right? So, center the slots. That's about where they were before, centered, so we'll be centered now. Let's not get ahead of ourselves too much. We'll put this mount and nut on top. And we can put our oil filter back in. You're gonna have to get out of my way. I know it reaches, it reached before. Well, you know what? I think I did it without this air vacuum pump in the way. More extensions where that came from. Oh, goodness gracious. Ah, that's right back in the same exact spot. Are you kidding me? Got it. Put a rag down there to protect my new motor mount. I don't want to get it all over the rubber. Come on, poker. Alright. Look at the rag. Did its job. Nice work. Two nuts, one bolt. See? You don't believe me? Look. 2 nuts, 1 bolt. 1 nut, 2 nuts, 1 bolt. I don't know. Starting to get that new car smell. Is it too early? Slide this catch back on the plastic holder. And this one I pulled the push pins out because I couldn't get to it because of this ledge. Sometimes they take on major damage, but this one's okay. In their proper holder. Okay, this snaps onto that. There it is. It's like an erector set. You guys remember? You've heard that before. I love erector sets. That's why I became a mechanic. My grandmother used to give me old clocks and stuff. I used to take them apart. And then I realized, wow, to really be good at that, I need to put them back together. So I stopped messing with clocks. These bolts should pull the connector up. You're basically sliding it into the connector as you snap it down, and this finishes it off. See the wire harness moving? And it's got something in there to keep you from over tightening it. Interesting. These two guys, back where they came from, 13mm nut. Clamp base. Give this thing a quick once over, fire it up, finish the tranny fluid, and we gotta do an induction service. Let's fire this race car up, back her out a little bit. So far so good. Got a little bit of a miss. All right, let's back it up a little bit. We're gonna do an induction service, so I try to get the exhaust pointing out of the shop at least a little bit. I'm gonna probably use those lines from the vacuum pump that go to the booster and the manifold, and the vacuum pump kind of assists the manifold vacuum. This thing's running a little rough. I wonder if there's a little oil in the cylinder. Hopefully it'll burn out. Let's hook up our induction dealio. Oh, I can smell a little oil. Okay, maybe this is burning the oil out of the cylinders. A couple of them got a little oil in them. Not a lot, just a little. I'm going to do my induction service, and then we'll have to clear codes and stuff anyway. While the scanner's on it, we'll check if it misfires. Hopefully we don't have a defective part. We'll see. That should be a good spot. I got to, this is the fluid that we do second. Put in the container ready to go. This is what we do first. This is the foamy stuff with the engine running. Spray it in a little at a time. And you try to do, I'll do probably half a can and then half a can. You do half, keep the engine running, 1500 to 2000 RPM. After you're done with about half a can, just going by feel. Shut the engine off, let it sit 10 or 15 minutes and soak into the carbon on the valves. Start it up, do the other half a can, and then you run that container till it's gone. It'll take the carbon off that it's not completely rocked hard. If it's been neglected and never been done, like this car's probably never had this done, it's partially effective, but it's not a cure-all. Let's fire this thing up, get this going. I gotta get my throttle stick so I can bump the throttle up a little bit too. There we go. I'm gonna run through till this can feels like it's about halfway. Sometimes you'll feel the engine start to struggle, then you need to let it recover. We'll mess with this a little while and we'll come back. I'm gonna stop it about there. Good. Second half of the can going in. We're running out. Uh-oh. Gonna let it sit a few minutes and go to the other fluid. Just need another half a quart. Engine's running. 2 birds, 1 stone. Induction service is all buttoned up. Codes are cleared. We got a misfire on cylinder 5. So, this is something I know all the top Don Phoenix Light 2s have. Misfire data. Cylinder 5. If I bring it off idle, it goes away. No misfire in Excel, so it's probably not ignition related. It's more along the lines of a dirty injector, intake manifold gasket leak, possibly. I'll let it idle again, and the misfire start counting up. Let's go inside, make sure. I think cylinder 5 is the blast cylinder on the rear bank. But I'm going to make sure. We'll come back. We're going to have to look at that cylinder. So the tune-up's turning into a diag, I guess. We'll see. There's a couple of things going on with this monstrosity. First of all, it's blowing heat out of the dash. I mean, it's hot. It's not like the AC is not working. I did a calibration, and it went through the calibration, and it sets a code for temperature sensor and one of the doors. I think the recirc door, but it shouldn't be. It says AC permission granted. I can hear the compressor running, but it's hot. The other thing is, it's got some kind of vacuum leak. It could have been caused by the plenum gasket I just installed. Is it cracked or damaged or something? I'm not sure. If I bring it off idle, my fuel trim's correct. So I was pulling fuel out of number 1 because now it's too rich. If I bring it back to idle, it takes a second. You'll see the short fuel trim on bank 1 start to correct. And it's going to start adding fuel, which means it has a vacuum leak. and that's why it runs good off idle and it misfires at idle only on cylinder 5. Cylinder 5 is on bank 1. It is the last cylinder in the rear bank. So I'm probably going to have to pull the plenum off just to look at that gasket. Was this misfiring on cylinder 5 before? I don't know. I was asked to do a maintenance tune-up, and for some reason they had all 6 coils and an induction service. That tells me that they were trying to correct the problem. So it's time to go talk to Paul Harvey and find out if I need to have him order another intake gasket, and we'll take it apart and have a look. Was it misfiring before? Was it not? And we'll come back. Alright, I got the Ancel hooked up to power and ground, red and black respectively. Plug it into my intake manifold inlet tube. That should fill the intake with smoke. And if I see smoke coming out anywhere over here around cylinder 5, then I know I have to pull the plenum off and check that plenum gasket. 1 is fan only, 2 is smoke. So let's go to 2 and get some smoke. It'll take a second. There it is, we're starting to get smoke, right? You guys can see that? Now, put in my intake and see if I see any smoke come out over here. It'll take a second. I'll have to fill a lot of volume in that intake manifold. I should not see smoke coming out, but we'll have to see. Interesting. No smoke yet. Should be seeing something by now. Trying to determine if this car has a leaking gasket or a bad fuel injector, and if I don't see a leaking gasket, then we're going to be going towards a fuel injector problem. Make sure we still have smoke. If I did have a leak, you'll see smoke coming out like that. Shows you that it's filling the intake manifold with smoke. And I do not see any smoke, so this gasket looks like it's probably in good shape. This has a big cover too. If the smoke will disperse if it has a lot of room to do so. You basically want to see it coming right at its source, and with this big cover it's going to be hard to see it, and there's an aluminum manifold under the cover. So I'm probably going to have to remove this aluminum manifold and have a look at that gasket. So it's full of smoke. If it's something like a throttle body gasket, I'd see smoke right here. If there was a different hose someplace, I would see smoke coming out of that hose. The whole thing has a Bourgeois Day kind of vibe. There's no left or right, inside and out, doesn't matter, it's the same. Let's see if I can get a look at the back of that intake valve. Well, still got plenty of carbon on it after that service, but it's just nasty. They're not the worst ones. That cylinder's not the worst. Kind of strange. Interesting. Well, with nothing conclusive in the gasket, it's got to be something to do with the injector, because no intake manifold leak, but low fuel volume in that cylinder at idle. Probably what's happening is the injector's not working until the pulse width increases enough to make it spray fuel. It doesn't spray fuel at low pulse widths. I've seen it before on these direct injected engines, but I don't know if that's what we were trying to fix or if that's new. And normally with that kind of a misfire from carbon, it wouldn't go away off idle. You'd feel it less, but it would still be there. On the misfire screen, 0 misfires off idle. So probably something with the injector. I think she's got another gasket coming, so we'll put it in there and put it back together. It's only 10 minutes to get the thing on and off, so we'll see if that does anything, and if not, we're going to be searching out an injector. Gaskets here? Yep. Thank you. Fuel line's in. It's not rubbing on the corner. Just clearing it. Electrical connections are in. I'm going to go put the intake back on that, see how that one runs, and then we'll finalize this. All I need to do is hook up the exciter wire to the relay to an ignition only source. So that'll be the last thing. Hopefully this thing will run and they can take it. This is a Felpro gasket. It's certainly a lot prettier. Might not amount to anything because I don't know if she can even cook yet. So we'll see. Looks are not number 1. And number 2. Gotta be able to cook too. Just saying. I suspect I'll be taking this back off again, but gonna try it. See, if only things were easy. But easier than not, you gotta make it work. That's what I'm saying. Gravity check! No time for that. Man, I need a deep one for that. Sun X. That ought to do it. Just needs a little higher. That's only going to take a second to finish putting this back together. Well, maybe it's like 1.2 seconds, but it was close, right? Alright, let's see here how this thing runs. Should be nice if it was the gasket. But I don't see anything wrong with it. And I already feel it. We'll bring up the screen anyway, but I feel it. Let this thing idle. And there's our cylinder 5 misfires. Only at idle. So this thing's got an issue with an injector. Now I can go in and do a leak down test. We can do that, and I'll show you what it looks like. I'll just do 2 cylinders. The one I know is a problem, number 5, and then a cylinder like number 4 or 2, an even cylinder, just to show you guys the difference. Well, I can do a fuel injector balance. The problem is, once per ignition, if I pick injector 5, now it's going to say coolant temperature too high. Oh, engine's running. Injector balance. Okay. Okay. Once. Injector 5. Okay. Coolant temperature too high. It doesn't want the engine warm. So it won't let me do it with the engine hot. So then if I go into power balance test, no, not that one. Fuel system. Cylinder power balance. Start the engine and idle it. Air conditioning off. Waiting for the engine to stabilize. So the misfire stops it from doing a power balance test, which is pretty odd. Waiting for engine speed to stabilize. So if I bring it up, we'll try 2,000 RPM or so. Try 1, go back to 5. It makes a difference at high RPM. That's why it doesn't have a misfire at higher RPM. It won't let me do it at idle because the idle speed is fluctuating too much. Now we'll let this thing idle again. You can feel the misfire and you can see the tach moving. It won't let me do it at idle because of that. So we'll try it one more time just to see if it'll go through. Waiting for the engine to stabilize. So kind of limited. I'm going to let this thing cool off to do an injector balance test. But I know from what I've seen before, cylinder 5 is going to fail. And we're talking about an injector for that. So we will see what happens with it. Probably in the morning, but let me go talk to them up front. See if the customer has to have this back or what. I did get my check engine light back on. Cylinder 5 misfire, which we all know that. Alright, I'm discouraged. Oh well. That was going to be a really good ticket. I was going to do it in no time flat. All you can do is row your boat gently down the stream. Because life is but a dream, you know what I'm saying? This is just the nature of the beast, you guys. You know, I don't hide things from you and only show you when things go smoothly. I show you every day, however it goes. So let's go talk to them up front, see if this thing's going to stay with us, and we're going to do that injector. We could try another induction service. Maybe that'll clean the injector and the valves up a little better and it'll run a little better. But I doubt it. But they may want to try that. So the only way I'll ever find out is if I go ask. One more thing before I go up there. The AC is hot on the driver's side and cool but not cold on the passenger side. So I brought up the door commands for temperature. The left door is commanded 0. It's at 184. The right door is where it's supposed to be. So there's something going on with the left temperature door or actuator. That's another thing to ask on that. I'm back probed into the coil and distributor positive feed, I think. We'll turn the key on and see if my test light lights. As long as it's on with the key on and off with the key off, that'll energize our relay just fine. If you can see that from here. There it is. Hey, that's a pretty good guess. Black with a red stripe. If anyone's wondering about their 91 Isuzu ignition feed. Now make sure it turns off with the key off. Oh yeah. That will excite our fuel pump. So, I'm going to hook this blue wire into this wire. The connector's kind of sketched too. It looks like the tab's broken off there or something, or I bet it's just dirt in there. It's hard to tell. I'm going to have to make the accommodations, splice into this black and red wire. and then we'll be good to go. Hopefully this thing will run and get something done today. Got the old soldering iron warming up. I'm gonna solder it in here instead of using a connector, so I don't have to cut the factory harness. I'll tape over it, make it nice and pretty when I'm done. I just don't want to cut their harness. Worst case scenario, that wire can be unsoldered and removed and the tape back up someday if someone decides they want to do that. I'm going to use black because black's on there already, and I don't want it to go from black to red to blue. It just at least it's black with a red to black to blue. So that's how it works in my head. I think that iron's just about warmed up. This solder is the lead-free one, which I hate, but it does work. It just doesn't give you a good-looking solder joint. That's a dirt bike on the street. Nice. Now, where people mess up on this is they want to melt solder and drop it onto a cold wire. But what I'm doing is tinning the solder tip and transferring heat into the wire from the solder tip, and the wire should melt in the solder. You don't melt the solder and drop it on the wire. You actually have to heat the wire so it will absorb the solder, if that makes sense. This is going to look a little ugly till I clean it up afterwards. Right now I'm just trying to get heat in it. And let's get nice and hot now. Give that a little roll here. And it needs a little bit more heat. It's starting to melt the factory insulation. I don't want to do that either because it's more tape work to do to clean it up. And sometimes this little Milwaukee iron, if you get too much solder on it, it cools it off. And that creates another problem. So it's not good with larger wires, but it's good with the light duty stuff. Up to probably 10 gauge wire maybe. Alright, that's good now. I'm gonna let that cool off a little bit. This thing will kill the battery in no time if you don't shut it off too. So I always shut it off when I'm not using it. It warms up pretty quick and it will kill the battery very quick. So I shut it off when I'm not soldering, turn it on for a minute before I'm gonna solder something. Handy, but not a real powerhouse. Kind of like their die grinders, but see if we can get that taped up tonight. It's already locked. They're already locked up inside, so. Uh-oh. Battery's dying. Just. Oh, that's it. It's dead. Well, I'll have to finish heat shrinking it in the morning. Let's at least see if this thing will run. Fuel line, I tightened that up last time. Key on, engine off. I should hear a fuel pump. Oh, that's kind of loud. All right. Now I got to see if there's gas going in the float bowl and stuff, probably. There we go. I fixed one. All right, that's that. Calling it a day. This place is already locked up. Everyone's having a beverage. Thanks for watching today, guys. Really appreciate it. Don't worry, don't be sad. We're gonna turn it around tomorrow. It's another day. It's just one day of trials and tribulations, and it's no big deal. It happens all the time. You just you line your ducks up for the next day, start over again, and make everything right. So that's all you do is just keep going. You don't give up. You only lose when you quit. So quitters don't win, and winners don't quit. Blah blah blah, all that other stuff. Hope I see you guys in the next video. You're awesome.